Hi, everyone. This is Joe Maldonado and Patty Wallenberg today, and we are going to be talking about wildflowers and how using wildflower essences can help treat negative moods and emotions. So, Patty, for those of you, first question, real simple. For those of you that don't know, can you just briefly describe what Bach flowers are and what are wildflower essences so people
Mhm.
know what we're talking about, just in case you don't
Okay, that's fine.
know.
So Bach Flower Remedies are flower essences of 38 different plants that were tested and kind of, I don't know, worked through by Dr. Bach in the 1930s. So the program for those wildflowers have been around for 90 years. So he was a medical doctor who wasn't happy with, obviously, like we are these days, questioning the medical profession.
Right.
And especially for things that involve emotion and mood, medicine doesn't necessarily work for those things. They're kind of vague topics.
Mhm.
You know, I feel sad, or I feel stressed, or I feel anxiety. The medicine for that is pretty harsh. They may not even had medicine for that at that time. So he explored, and he was a naturalist. He liked his flowers and his plants. So he developed at first 12 different remedies, different plants. Sometimes they're also trees. They're not always flowers. And at the end, when he was finally done and felt himself complete, he has 38 different plants and trees.
Mhm.
Some which are here in the US, a lot of them are found in the UK, in England. So there have been, so it's kind of interesting. They still work the same. They all have different properties that work to help you with your mood.
Mhm. So that being said, I have to go directly into this. What made you decide to go to the UK, to go to England and study this versus taking a course online or taking a course here in the States? I mean, I'm sure there's other, like good teachers here.
There are. I did my first course. So there's 3 levels to become a certified practitioner with Bach Flower Remedies, to be on their website, to be officially labeled certified.
Okay.
I did my first course here in Austin, Texas, with a nice woman out there. The problem is most Americans don't subscribe to Bach Flower Remedies. So getting training was very difficult. The first level was okay, but it was me and another girl, small classroom. And so to do the other levels, every time I signed up, they kept getting canceled. So I got mad in typical Aries fashion. And I said, take care of this. So I reached out, and I know that the original Bach Centre in England also does training program. So they normally don't let you do levels 2 and 3 together, but I reached out and I said, I'm flying all the way from the US. I want to be certified. I want to finish my training. So they allowed me to come out and do both courseworks over a period of 2 weekends. So, and then back at that time, it was pre-COVID. Everything was in person. It's very difficult to teach, and most people were not very adept, though they do online teaching now. Back then they did not. And anyway, I got to go spend 2 weeks in a magical little one pub village in the UK, which was really fascinating. And I stayed in this beautiful little B&B, and it was on a big farm in somebody's like greenhouse. It was beautiful.
Wow.
And then I got to go to the actual Bach Centre, where most of the plants that are used for his remedies are still grown there. They still manufacture and produce the actual tincture bottles there.
Wow.
Then, of course, you get to see his library and his office and the property and the land that he worked with and loved so much. It was his last place before he passed away.
No, this was like in the 1930s, was it, when he did this, right? Okay.
Yeah, 1930s. And he died shortly after finishing. Wow. And what was interesting was his theory of medicine was that it should be accessible to everybody. Everybody should have the opportunity to take care of themselves. So he made the remedies, he gave guideline about the remedies, and then after he finished his research, he burned it all. He got rid of all of his research so that people couldn't go back in and start, I don't know, nitpicking, or I don't know the wording I might use, but they couldn't really get his research notes to find out what he was thinking about. And he made all these tinctures and he tested them on all the locals for free, just to see if they would work, experiment. Give you this plant, how does that make you feel? Did it change your mood? How did it do? And then when he passed, before he passed, he got rid of everything. So all that was left were the remedies and the plants on his home property. So it's kind of interesting. And then of course,
so who took up with, how did they know? Like, continue on with that.
He had assistants. He had a lady, I want to say her name is Nancy, but don't quote me on it because I don't know. Okay. I'd have to look it back up. But he had assistants that would carry on the work for him. Okay. And they were already well established. And so his assistants were the ones to carry on the tradition of his Bach Flower Remedies. Right. And they, of course, developed into something more. And of course, it get marketed and it's bigger now and you can get them anywhere. Usually in your health food stores. So sometimes you can find them in a grocery.
I've actually seen them like in some of the pet stores carry.
You will find them in the pet stores.
Yeah, because there's remedies for pets. I know our vet uses Rescue Remedy, for animals for anxiety. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Rescue Remedy is a blend of 5 different flower essences. Mm-hmm. And you can use them for people and they make it, you could do drops, they come in tablets, they come in different forms. The same remedies for people are used for pets. And I also do not only remedies for people, I also do them for pets. I make my cat a remedy when I travel because she gets very anxious. She gets separation anxiety. And of course, her best friend passed away a couple of months ago. So now she's a single cat.
Yeah.
Doesn't like it.
Right.
But, so to help her get through those feelings, I also make her a remedy. And when the pet sitter comes in, I start her before I go. And he did, and then she'll give them to her while I'm also away. So she's on them pretty much all the time. I take her off for a little while and stuff. And then, of course, I do remedies for me. I do remedies for my friends. I see clients. So
we have a question, which is very good question, actually. Yeah. When he did his experiments on the locals, they weren't consuming pharmaceuticals like we are today. Will they still react in our bodies with pharmaceutical drugs in our systems like they did in the past without them?
Right. So the Bach remedies, when we make our tincture bottles, we make a custom bottle for each person, which we'll be doing on Saturday. You'll get to actually do a questionnaire. Yeah. And you'll be able to actually have me create a personal bottle for you. The questionnaires are actually quite good. So the remedies, when you make them, you take like a 3 milliliter bottle and fill it with water. And you add 2 drops of each plant. So people who are concerned about, I might have allergies or I take other medication. It works more on an energetic level than actually ingesting plants. It's not like you're taking a spoonful that might interfere, or taking a pharmaceutical or taking a homeopathic. It is homeopathic in a sense, but it's a minute dosing. And you put 2 drops into your master bottle of up to 7 different remedies. Okay. And then that's your program for 3 weeks. You take 4 drops 4 times a day. So you're not ingesting a great deal. And again, it's mostly an energetic versus a quantity of flower.
Yeah.
It doesn't interfere with your blood pressure medicine, your other medicine, your any type of thing. It has no conflict at all because the dosing is so very small. It works much more gently and it works more on an energetic level than it does on a physical, tangible level.
Right. So, so to compare it to herbs or teas, you can't, because they work differently. They're right. Then this is more energetic. So one of the questions on here that I had we were going to talk about today is, so this addresses emotional distress. So, I mean, I know because I've been studying this for a very long time, but how does the flower essence impact the energetic level of emotional distress that applies to physical illness? So can you explain
Sure.
how that works?
So Dr. Bach believed that most of our physical ailments, I'm not going to say everything, but a large part of our physical ailments stem from emotional root that we don't ever address. We bury it, we don't tune into it, we don't pay attention to it. It is the body's way of manifesting its last call for help. A lot of times is it will then manifest in the physical. So the flower remedies, so say we'll do one for anxiety. A lot of people have anxiety these days. A lot of times they don't even know why, other than I just feel anxious. I stay up a lot.
Yeah, I hear Abigail.
Obviously, Abigail has anxiety.
Yes, she does. Yeah.
So I use two different remedies to treat people with anxiety based on what they're telling me. One of them is white chestnut, and the white chestnut works on the repetitive thoughts and stories we tell ourselves. Is that constant rattling in the brain. It's when someone tells me they can't sleep at night.
Yeah.
I will give them that particular remedy because it will help soothe and tone down the inner chatter that goes on. You can also use, sometimes anxiety is very fear-based. I'm scared of everything. I'm scared of, so there's two different remedies for fear of the unknown versus I'm afraid of heights or spiders. So anxiety is usually a fear of the unknown. You don't necessarily know what triggers it. So there's these little nuances which the training teaches us to distinguish between a fear of an unknown, a fear of a known. And the aspen is the one tree that we have here in the US too. Aspen is the one I use when you tell me that you have fears that are unrooted. Those sorts of things.
Like what do you mean unrooted? Like what?
Well, more maybe unknown, or you can't really get to the root of what you're afraid of. As opposed to saying I'm afraid of spiders, I'm afraid of speaking in public, I'm afraid of heights. Those are very known fears, but a lot of times I'm kind of running a fear, but I'm not sure where that comes from. So a lot of the remedies kind of do that. There's two different ones for depression. One, I know why I'm depressed, and others, I just feel kind of depressed. There's things for trauma. There's things for sadness. You had a bad car accident. There's also things for personalities where maybe, your kid's going away to college and you're having a really hard time letting go, or maybe your whole life revolves around taking care of your family and you forget to take care of yourself. So there's these bunches of different moods and behaviors. So we don't necessarily, when we do a consult, even when you do the questionnaire, it's never about I have a bad shoulder, I have a bad knee. It's the feelings that are going on. It addresses the feelings. Even the conversation we have is how do you feel about where you're at?
Yeah. And I just, I'm playing devil's advocate, but I'm kind of asking the question and answering it in my own mind. I know that, you say that it has an energetic level. And I'm going back to Sharon's question about, so we take medications, and medications have side effects, and the medications are supposed to do something, whether it's, raise your blood pressure, lower your blood pressure, or whatever. And then I know how that cycle goes, because then, your blood pressure drops, and then you lose your balance, and then you get depressed and blah, 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 or family issues happen. And then it's a whole cyclical thing. So aside from family issues, going back to medications. So I am picturing doing something like Qigong or Reiki or energy healing type of modalities that I use, for example, with my animals or with myself or my family. And if, and I think it's a matter of, do you accept that theory that energetically I can, with my energy, make them blow out my air conditioner, or, offer some type of relaxation and healing for my animals because I'm saying energy, and then my hands I better be careful, I'll zap us out of the internet like I always do. But so then taking that whole concept of energy, you go back to the concept of the energetic essences. So how do they take the energetic essences of the flower? How do they capture that and put it in drops?
Okay, sure. So they do two different methods when they prepare the essences. They will go with a bowl of water, and they'll actually pick and harvest the flowers right there on site.
Okay.
It's what they term the sun method. And they'll actually leave them in the bowl of water and leave it sit out in the sun for a couple hours. That's it.
That's it.
Sometimes with the trees, the thicker ones, so what they'll do is they'll actually take the branches and they'll boil them so that the energy is then in that water. Then they clean out everything. And that water then is kind of like the large mother tincture. And then they make bottles, and they put 4 drops from that bowl into what we term a mother tincture, which bottles that you can buy in the store.
Capturing the essence of the energy of that flower plant.
And done for simple, it lets Mother Nature do it. It sits outside. It's not like they do anything bad. The flower essences are very different than essential oils because we're not processing oils. I always find it funny when people start opening up their bottles, because I do make you, when you come for a consult, make your own bottle. I want you to put your own energy into creating that bottle, also too, you're more likely to take it.
Sure.
So I always find it funny when they open it and they sniff it, and I'm like, yeah, no, there's no smell. Or they're like, I think it tastes. And I go, no, it has no taste. But in your mind, you might think it does. And I'm like, whatever, I don't care, just take it. But and so what they do, so it's already very diluted when it comes to me. And then I put 2 drops into your bottle. So it's a very diluted essence, which is why it doesn't conflict with any medication, because you're really not taking a whole lot of anything. But the energy is in there. And so the work that Bach Flower Remedies does for you is very gentle. It's very soothing, but it's very light. Like you wake up one morning and you're just kind of like, I think maybe I feel a little different today. It's not like slap against the head and you're just like, oh, you're great today.
And it's a slow process, because I know when you made me a bottle and then you made Henry a bottle too, it took, I think I probably noticed it within the week, but slight changes. And it took about 2 weeks, then I go, you're not depressed anymore. You're not angry. You're not frustrated. Whatever the situation was with him, I don't recall what it was because it was a while ago, but I know that it took a while, and all of a sudden he goes, you're right. That I feel better. So, and he's one of these guys that it's like, why do I have to take it? I know. Because you're a pain right now, so rather than being a pain, let's get you morphed out of the pain mode and let's get you being happy, or more balanced or whatever, So can you, on the whole, because I know you have, and we're going to talk about it on Saturday, for COVID, we're going to talk about the pandemic and war. There's such heavy topics. I mean, COVID was so restricting for so many people, and it led into this humongous depression cycle, for so many people. People are dying, people are restricted, you don't have your freedom like you used to. Your life has changed, everything is kind of run amok for like almost 2 years. So with that vast amount, of change and impact, can you tell us a little bit about what you're going to be talking about and how we're going to address this on Saturday, and how, we can kind of get our ourselves to a more balanced state? And by the way, it is safe for children, correct?
Yes, it's safe. And I also give the same remedies to my pets.
Okay.
So
All right.
So
So
just say
for Saturday, back to that.
yes.
Yeah.
So botch is meant to be used for conditions that are somewhat manageable. Obviously, you would see a skilled practitioner if you were suffering from very severe depression, very severe anxiety. You know, so I am not a doctor, so I need to say that up front. This is for your more mild cases. This is obviously not to be replacing something if you actually need medical care.
Right.
That being said, it does move down to do your own self-care. It's not a miracle. So if you're sitting binge watching news 24/7, it's not going to change.
Right.
You know, but I do see a lot of people with anxiety. I do see a lot of people. I make a blend for people who have had COVID because I had it.
Yes.
You know, and I know what wasn't getting better for us after we had COVID. What are the things that are still continue?
The long-term COVIDs. Yeah.
You know, us who, you know, I'm 2+ years out of, well, I'm a year and a half out of having COVID. I still have symptoms. I still have side effects. I still have things that aren't quite right. So I'll make myself a bottle every once in a while when I start seeing that I'm having an issue again. I've been able to help people get their taste back. I've been able to help with the brain fog. I've been also able, I do, one of my favorite flower remedies is the flower impatience.
Yeah.
And it's exactly for what it is, impatience, which is very known habit of mine. Most of us get so very frustrated about not recovering fast enough, not doing what we always did. You know, I need more rest than I ever did. I get tired faster. So I take impatience to help me be not so hard on myself, you know, so that I'm not impatient and frustrated. And also a lot of that brain fog, I do white chestnut, which we talked about. I also do clematis. And clematis is about being grounded and being rooted. It helps you feel more in control. It helps you feel more on the ground and less in your head. So that's also one of the things I add to my COVID blends for that particular reason. And then I kind of will ask you what else you've got going on and I'll customize it a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, but anything that's dealing with anxiety, depression, all of those are certainly pretty strong right now because that's what's happening in the world.
Yeah. It's affecting all of us. It's
affected everybody in their own way.
Yeah.
So, you know, but the remedies can help alleviate at least some of it. Again, if you truly need medical care, you get medical care. But if you're just kind of just feeling sort of despondent and somewhat depressive, we all go through cycles like that too.
Yeah.
And also too, there's remedies that, you know, sometimes you kind of feel like, is this ever ending?
Yeah.
I've been, you know, we've been stuck, depending on where you live in particular, we've been so stuck with COVID where I can't. Something to help you also kind of lessen that feeling of things.
Yeah. So on Saturday, if you could talk about, I mean, because I know there's pre-made formulas already, you know, for Bach. So what is the difference, or, you know, why is it better to do your own formula, roll out your custom formula and have it, you know, measured out and so on, versus buying a bottle, you know, and I don't know how much they sell for, but, you know, buying a bottle like at your drugstore or supermarket.
And I do sometimes recommend for some people. So when we do a consult, and also too, even when you do a questionnaire, when I do a group activity, I do questionnaire provided by the Bach Centre. Everybody handles things different. Everybody has different trigger.
Different energies.
The only really true pre-made formula is the rescue remedy, which is all about trauma. So pets, it's thunderstorms, vet visits. For people, I've had a car accident, I had someone pass away, traumas. The individual remedies, sometimes, and I had a client in not too long ago where I gave her a remedy called sweet chestnut. And sweet chestnut is about deep sadness, especially if you've got long-term trauma. She had childhood abuse, and then in the last couple of years, she's had very bad car wrecks. So she's constantly under a trauma.
Yeah.
And so even though I made her a blend, I also, she was kind of like, I might want to take this for a while. And I said, then just buy yourself a bottle. So, the bottle, only taking 2 drops out of each bottle every time you make a remedy. I've got 38 choices. Your mood changes, your emotions change, especially as you start doing your own work. You're constantly peeling away. So when you come in for your first consult, I deal with what I hear you tell me is your priorities. I never put my own self in your place and go, boy, she could really, or he could really use blank. Mm-hmm. If you're not asking me about it, you're not ready. Even though I might see it, you're not ready. So I let you work at your own pace, but then you'll come back. I really liked my results. I want another session. I might give you a totally different set. I might only give you 2 out of the 6 or 7 that you put in. So when we do a remedy, and when you do your questionnaire, particularly on Saturday's class, I will tell you on the questionnaire if you answer. So there's 3 questions about each remedy. And if you answer yes to all 3, that definitely goes in your bottle. Mm-hmm. And then you can look at your 2s and add those. But we only do up to 7 in a bottle. Even though, and it's funny because sometimes you'll get someone who says, well, why don't I just put 2 drops of everything in the bottle? Get it done. Yeah. Well, yeah, but you could really go off the rails sometimes too, because you have so much processing and going on at the same time, that maybe it doesn't quite really work because now you just took everything.
Yeah.
So it's a very layered effect. It's a very gentle and slow process where there's really no massive change to really throw you off, but you will notice. And then you'll want to come back in and have work some more and keep working to get to a point where maybe you don't need, or maybe you find one remedy that's in your bottle every time. Maybe you have white chestnut in your bottle every single time. And you can buy your own.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're probably $12 or $15 in the store. They're not a lot to buy a single if you're planning on using it a lot. But if you're really planning on doing some deep personal healing work, you're going to be going through a bunch of different remedies.
Yeah. Yeah. And you want to customize it because, like you said, your energy changes all the time. My energy now is different than it was 3 hours ago. So, but basically, I'm sure you are skilled at adapting your energy radar, as far as flower essences are concerned, to this is, what I am feeling. This is what, he needs this or she needs that. And
this is hearing from you. I will listen to you when you speak. Obviously, I don't in the questionnaires, but when I do private consult, I listen to what you tell me. Yeah. And then not only that, but when I work with you on building your blend, I check it. I don't just make it. Yeah. I will say, I hear that you feel this. This is the remedy for this. And I also have a little small book that they give us when we first take our class. And it's a little summary. It's only a paragraph or 2 about each remedy, but I'll ask you to read it. Does this sound like what you're going through right now? Mm-hmm. And the results, is this what you're hoping to gain?
Wow.
So we convert. So we actually work in tandem when we work in building your remedy, so that I make sure I understand what you're feeling, because I'm not feeling it.
Yeah.
You are.
Yeah. That's really fascinating. And it seems so detail oriented too, that, the center, and the whole process really had given it a lot of thought before they put all this together. It's not just kind of smacked together and off we go.
No, he worked a long time building it, testing it, watching it. He was, they say that he was a real natural people watcher. Yeah. So he would just kind of sit back. He was not necessarily the most social, but he would sit back and watch people and sort of start breaking down how their emotionals were
Yeah.
in different categories of things.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about the categories, we'll talk about the blends.
It was really fascinating reading about him. He sounded like one of those, hey, wow, I would have loved to hear him give a lecture or something, persons, because he did, like you said, he spent a lot of time observing, studying, and,
Yeah.
with the folks and, and all that. And he apparently knew his plants too, so.
He did. And, and he was a medical doctor.
And he was a medical
He
doctor.
was a medically trained doctor.
Yeah.
And he was also a virologist.
Yes.
And he also, touched on some homeopathy too. Yeah. But these
not satisfied with the medical practice as it was, because it wasn't treating this portion that we're talking about, the emotional part.
Correct. And only treated the physical, and he recognized that by not ignoring the emotional component to your illnesses, maybe it isn't going to cure you, but put you at peace with some of them. Or give you the strength to push on so that you can handle what else you need to do.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, awesome.
Yes, so I find it fascinating, of course.
It is. It's very fascinating. I love my plants. Other than my dogs, they're, and my husband, they're my best friends. I love my plants. I love how grounded, they make me feel when I'm amongst them. And I also just, on a side note, I know that when my plants are happy, I'm paying particular attention to my indoor plants. My outdoor plants, they're fine, and I pay attention to them too. And we have, as you know, we have tons of vegetation out there. But for the indoor plants, and I buy these plants that I think, oh, these are really cool. We'll put them outside on the porch, and something happens, and they just shrivel up, and they're not happy. And so, I go through the process of, maybe you'll feel better living inside, but inside in the room, the yoga room that they're in, there is music which sets up the vibration, the energy, is totally different there. So they love that. I have the diffusers going. They love that, they great. I do a lot of meditation. So again, energetically, there's calming and yoga. Everything is calm in there. And they just, oh my gosh, my Christmas cactuses haven't bloomed in 3 years. I moved them in there. Every single one of them is blooming like crazy. They love it. So, again, it's an energetic thing, that kind of affects them. Our time is up. And I want to thank everybody for coming. Those that are on the call right now, stay on. You can continue asking questions after we stop the recording. And everybody else, thank you for coming. And Patty, thank you for coming.
You're welcome.